Okay, so good morning to everyone. Till last class, we have discussed about the topics of the exception handling. And in this topic of exception handling, we have seen all about the throws keyword. Up to throws keyword we have seen. But during the exception handling, the two things I have mentioned, that there is a wrapper class present and that how the user input can be taken using the scanner class, we have called in the exception when we are discussing the exception handling in that time. So we will move into the next topic before completing this two topic about the wrapper class concept and how at user input, like in the using the command line argument, how the inputs can be taken. We will see it first, then we will move to the next topic, the thread topic. We will move after that. So before starting, we will discuss wrapper class concept, the wrapper class that is present in the Java. So wrapper class basically used to convert primitive data type into the object, or the vice versa, means from object to the primitive data type. Now, what are our primitive data type present? If you remember, we have some primitive data types. That is, we call this as, this is the basic data types we have. That is our integer, float, then character. These are what? These are the primitive data types. Now, if you remember, in C, there are three types. One is primitive data type, one is derived data type, and another one is the user-defined data type. So, in the base of the primitive data type, integer, float, character, they are present. And for derived data type like array, then string, like this, they are pointers, like these are in the derived data type. And the user defined data type is what? That the data type that which the user will be created, like our structure, union, enum, type def, like this. These are the user defined data type. So same concept here, that wrapper class uses to convert this primitive data type into object. Now in Java, each and every concept are based on class and object. So that's why wrapper class do what? Wrapper class are used to convert the primitive data types into objects, and or we can say from object to primitive data type. For this we use the wrapper class. Like in Java, we say it is an object oriented language. Now, in object oriented means how many variables or different identifiers used in the program are all to be present according to the object form. That means all the variables or our different identifiers that is present in the program will be presented according to the object form, because this is Java is an object oriented language. So all of these things should be in the object oriented form. But that's not the mean that Java will remove the primitive data type. Primitive data type will be present, and for this also this wrapper classes will be present. Like they are still boolean, character, byte, short, int, long, float, double. All of this data type into the object, we will convert it into the object using the wrapper class. That means all this primitive type data will be converted into the object, will be converted using into the object using the wrapper class concept. And we can also convert those objects into primitive type using the same wrapper class. So that means wrapper class, we say, basically used for converting primitive type to object or vice versa. This is why the wrapper classes is used. Now wrapper classes have two features. There are two features present in the wrapper class. One is autoboxing and another one is the unboxing. These two features are present, autoboxing and unboxing. Now, autoboxing is what? It is the automatic conversion of primitive data type into object. That means if we convert the primitive data type into object, then we say it as the autoboxing. And unboxing is just the opposite. That means automatic conversion of object into primitive data type. This is the thing about the unboxing. So this is autoboxing and unboxing concept. Now we have total 8 wrapper classes present in Java. Total 8 wrapper class are present. And this wrapper class is present in java.lang package. So all of this 8 class which we have, it will present in the java.lang package. Inside java.lang package, this 8 classes are present. Now first we will see what are the primitive type and what is its conversion in the wrapper class. So same as that, if you see here, the primitive type is boolean. That means this is the primitive type. And when it will be in the wrapper class, the name of and the character will be same. Only B is capital. It will looks like boolean. If primitive type is char, then the wrapper class will be character. The wrapper class will be character. If the primitive type is byte, then the wrapper class is byte. If the primitive type is short, then the wrapper class is short. If the primitive data type is int, then in the wrapper class form, it is integer. If the primitive type is long, then the wrapper class is long. And other two is, if it is float, then the wrapper class is, if it is float, then the wrapper class is float. If it is double, then the wrapper class is the double. So these are what in left side we have written the primitive type, primitive data type. And what it will be in the wrapper class, it will be, if you see, all of these are same. Float, float, double, double, only the caps is used. You see, only caps is used. And only for integer and character. For int, we use int, but here in the wrapper class, we use integer. And for char, in the primitive data type, we use here in the our wrapper class, we use it as the character. Okay, so
हेलो
these are the
हेलो सर सर कोई भी क्लास का नाम देने से पहले उसका फर्स्ट लेटर कैपिटल होता है?
ये ना, ये सिर्फ रैपर क्लास जो है, रैपर क्लास का यही फॉर्म है, ठीक है। मतलब रैपर क्लास में ये प्रेजेंट है सिर्फ, बाकी किसी में ऐसा नहीं है। ये रैपर क्लास के लिए है कि ये ऑटोमेटिक, ये सब क्या है, ये जो रैपर क्लास का जो 8 क्लासेस तुम देख रहे हो ना, ये प्री डिफाइंड है, ये तुम बना नहीं रहे हो। प्री डिफाइंड क्लास जैसे तुम्हारा स्टोर्ड है, प्री डिफाइंड क्लास जैसे तुम लोगों का स्टोर रहेगा, वैसे ही उसको यूज करना है, ये डिफाइंड है। हाँ, अब हम लोग जो नॉर्मली करते हैं, तुम जो भी यूज करो, ठीक है, तुम यूजर होके जो क्लास क्रिएट कर रहे हो, उसमें ऐसे कुछ ये नहीं है। बट ये प्री डिफाइंड है, ये तुम चेंज नहीं कर सकते हो इसको। तो ये जैसे प्री डिफाइंड करके है, वैसे ही तुमको यूज करना है इसको। तो इसीलिए क्या है, इंटीजर, आई कैप्स, कैरेक्टर का सी कैप्स, बाइट का बी कैप्स, ऐसे ही रैपर क्लास में क्या है, रैपर क्लास ऐसे ही डिक्लेयर्ड है, ठीक है। इसीलिए इसको ऐसे ही तुमको यूज करना है। हाँ, तुम बोल रहे हो कि तुम जो क्लास करोगे उसका भी कैपिटल देना है क्या, नहीं, ऐसे कुछ जरूरी नहीं है। तुम जैसे उसको डिफाइन कर सकते हो, तुम्हारा क्लास ये प्री डिफाइन कर दिया है, तो वैसे ही उसको यूज करना है, ठीक है। इट इज क्लियर, अजय?
यस सर।
Now we will see through an example that how the primitive data type will be converted to the wrapper class. So let's say we have taken this as an example class, that is the wrapper1, and name the class as wrapper1. And inside this class we use the public static void main, and we use like this string args, or you use anything, but mainly I use string args, but here I have used string a like that. So here you can use anything. It is not the variable name, you can anything you mentioned. Then int I equal to 100. So I value we declared it as the or assigned as it as the 100, and this is the integer type. The next you see j equal to integer j. This is what, this is the wrapper class. That's why we have used integer j equal to integer dot value of I. Now this will convert that I value, that why we are converting it into the integer. Now though as passing, when we will pass the value in the Java, then that time mainly it the value we get as a string type. So this we have to, because in Java all the variables we take, all the, if it comes from the here, then it is as a string type it came, and we have to convert that into the integer type. So this is what, this is the integer wrapper class. This is the integer wrapper class, and inside of it a function, that is value of integer class. This is the class integer, and this wrapper class has a function, that is value of, that is the value of. And this take what, this take as a parameter the argument it takes. Now the I value will pass, and this I value will be converted into the integer from. That is what converting primitive data type I to an object of type integer. This is what, this is the, this things is the converting the primitive data type I. That means the primitive data type which we have, because here we have declared it as the integer. Here you see we have declared it is as an integer. So this is what converting the primitive data type I. That means the I value will be in the primitive data type format. The I value will be in the primitive data type format. Now we have to, what we have seen, primitive type to object, we have to convert it. We have to convert primitive data type into object. So primitive data type to an object of type integer, of type integer, that is the integer type, and using the function of integer dot value of. So that's why we use this as converting. This is the value of, this is converting the primitive data type into the object. This is converting. And if you write like this also, it is what, integer ab, like this another variable we have taken, integer ab equal to I. We directly write I, no integer dot value of, we didn't use that. Then also if we write this, then JVM will write integer dot value of internally. That means this same process will be done by this also, because if we doesn't mention anything, if we like this, we use integer ab equal to I and doesn't mention this integer dot value of, then also compiler will, JVM will understand automatically that this has to be use the value of integer dot value of function. So it will use this integer dot value of internally, and this will convert the primitive data type, the primitive data type which we are taking, that primitive data type to the type. Here we have used integer, so that means this is converting into the integer, and the function which you using, that is the value of function. But if we doesn't mention this, then also what, then also JVM internally use that function, value of function, JVM will use that internally. This is what, this is called the autoboxing. This is the autoboxing, that what we have from the definition we have seen, the autoboxing, that it will convert the primitive data type into the object. So this is the example that how this can be performed, that it is how this is converting this primitive data type into object. Okay, next is that the another example which we will see, that is converting from wrapper to the primitive, wrapper class to the primitive data type, the opposite form. And we know the opposite form we called as unboxing. The opposite
Hello,
form
sir.
is called बोलो।
सर ये ऑटो बॉक्सिंग और जो ऊपर वाला इंटीजर डॉट वैल्यू है दोनों लिखना जरूरी है क्या?
जो भी तुम ये भी तुम लिख सकते हो, ये जो है ये भी तुम लिख सकते हो, और ये अगर नहीं लिख के तुम ये लिखो ना तब भी होगा, क्योंकि ये जो है डायरेक्टली तुम ऐसे लिखोगे तब भी क्या है, जो तुम्हारा जेवीएम जो कंपाइलर है वो ऑटोमेटिकली ये काम करेगा, इंटीजर डॉट वैल्यू ऑफ, वो ऑटोमेटिकली काम कर देगा, ये ऑटोमेटिकली एग्जीक्यूट होगा उसके इंटरनली। तो अगर तुम ये स्टेटमेंट भी लिख सकते हो, ये स्टेटमेंट भी लिख सकते हो, मगर दोनों का काम सेम ही होगा।
ओके सर।
ओके, now we will see the example of converting wrapper to the primitive type, that is the unboxing. Or now it converts the object, into primitive data type. That is what, so we will see what it will do. That first, let's say we have taken this example, and this is the wrapper2, name the class as wrapper2, and inside it, what the use, we have used the main function. In this main, inside this main, what we have do, we have created the integer class object. You see, we have created, this is what, integer I equal to new integer, and as a parameter we are passing the value. Now this is what, integer I equal to new integer, that means integer class object we are creating in our program, and as a parameter we are passing 10 value. That means this object, this I object has value 10. So at particular time we are passing the arguments, that means this 10 value will be whom, this 10 value will be of the object that is created, the object value will be 10. Then you see this is int ab. Now int is what, like if we use int, that means it is the primitive. Now our program is what, converting from wrapper to primitive, so that's why we have used a primitive data type. You see, we have used a primitive data type, and we mentioned int ab. That means ab is of integer type, and that means ab is the primitive data type. Ab has the primitive data type because the value which will become will be as a primitive data type value. So that's why this value has to be stored into a primitive type variable. So here that's why we have used int ab equal to the object which is created. So through this object we called int value method, we called in value method. Now this is what this functions do, what this functions particularly converting the object I into the primitive data type int, because what is used, this function int value, that means the value we will pass, this value will be of whom, this value will be of the object I dot int value. That means I is what, I is the object. So object value, this I object value will be converted into int value. That means int value means what, these functions convert the object value into the primitive data type int. So that means the object value which we take will be converted into the primitive data type int. So this is how the converting will be done. Now if like this, we can also directly use that int j equal to I. That means the primitive data type we use and a value equal to I. Same as that, like we see in the autoboxing also, that internally it will do what, if we directly write this int j equal to I, then means then the int value, this int value functions will be work internally. The compiler will do the work this of this int value method internally. So it will convert our object value into primitive data type. So that's how the wrapper class we use. Wrapper class is basically we have used to convert our primitive data type to object, and unboxing case it is converting from our object to primitive data type. Okay, so these are the two functions, this two functions. Mainly we use these functions maximum, that is the value of and the int value method. Value of will convert the our primitive data type into our object type, that is the autoboxing case. And for unboxing case is what int value method will do, it will convert the object value, the value of the object, it will be converted into the primitive data type. So these are the two example, and wrapper classes work over this. Okay, so this is the concept of the wrapper class. Now another concept that is we discussed, that is the command line argument, which we have seen the command line argument that is discussed during the programming. I have already always mentioned during the exception handling the command line argument, and there is an exception generated for that, that is the array out of bound exception. So how the array out of bound exception generated, we will see that. Now first, how to pass the command line argument in Java. In Java, how the command line argument we pass the command line argument. So basically, let's say there is a program like this, class ABC class is used, and inside this the public static void main we use, and string args we are passing. And here inside the main we are using system.out.println. Now the statement, whatever we are passing, args0, you see args0. Why are using args0? Now if you observe in the main we are passing the parameter, in main we are passing a parameter, that is string args, that is the what, this is the string type argument we are passing. Now this string type argument which we are passing using for the main at the compile time, its zeroth portion, it is its zeroth portion because it is a string, so that means there will be n number of elements will be present. Let's say from there we want that the zeroth position element, we pass, we use that. So when we will save this program, let's say we will save this program at the name of the class abc.java, and at the compilation time when we compile that program, so we will use for compilation java c file name.java, and for execution we will use java then file name. Now after the execution of this program, exceptions will be generated. Now the exceptions, after executing this program, the exceptions will be generated. Now what is the exception that will be generated? The exceptions will be array index out of bound exception. Now why this exception is generated? Now if you observe, the exception is generated because we use args0 in our program. Now if you see, we are passing the zeroth index. The args is like a string variable, so that means something we have to pass, and some string value we have to pass during the compilation time. During the compilation time we have to pass some arguments value, pass some string arguments value. But here in our program, we didn't use in the compilation time any statement, we didn't pass here. So that's why we didn't pass at least one argument to be passed, because args0 means in our program, that in our program expecting at least one argument to be passed during the runtime. That means during the compilation time at least one argument should be passed, because we are using args0. If we use args0 plus then args1, let's say we use 1 plus args 2, like this. If we use like this, that means what? 0, 1, 2, three statements, at least three statements should be passed during the compilation time. So this is a string variable. This is a string variable. So at a particular compilation time, we have to use at least, here we have only used 0. That means at least one argument should be passed. But if it is like argument plus args0 plus args1 plus args2, that means at least three inputs should be passed during the compilation time. But here if you see, we didn't pass anything at during the compilation time. We only use java c command, java compiler, then file name dot java, and after that we didn't use any statement. Now that means a statement should be used. This is the array out of bound exception. That's time we call this as the array out of bound exception. Now if the argument is not passed, if in the argument is not passed, then the exceptions will be thrown. So in this case, let's say during the compilation time, after writing java c abc.java, and we use called after that we use a statement ram, then there will be no exception thrown, because we have already passed a statement during the compilation time. For because there is args0, that means at least one input our program is expecting, at least one input. So that's why if we during the compilation time we write java c then file name.java, and after that a statement we passed, then the exceptions will be not generated. But if we didn't pass anything, but we are expecting the program, in program we are using this, then that means our program is expecting some value that we didn't use that, and that's why the exceptions will be generated, and this exceptions name will be the array out of bound exceptions. Okay, so that's how this the array out of bound exceptions generated. Now this will be do what? This will print the our execution, that during if we use this like argument plus args0 plus args1, that means it is expecting two statements. That's why during the execution of program, you see we have runtime, we have used java abc hello, and this hello will be stored at argument 0, this world will be stored at argument 1. So during the execution they will have to pass this two statement, then only it will print argument hello world. So any argument we pass in java, any argument we pass in java should be is a string type. This is a format, how we can take the user input. This is a format to taking the user input. But there is a disadvantage of this command line argument. Now that means if we have to pass, let's say we have to pass 100 variable value, that means like this from argument 0 to argument 99, argument 0 to argument 99 we have to write, then only we can pass the 100 variable. It is not the right way. That how many, if we have to pass a large argument, then that means what? That means large amount we have to pass during this. So that means let's say we have to pass 100 statements we want to print. So that means what? Like this argument 0, argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, argument 4, argument 5, like this we have to build. It is not correct way, and our program will be what? The program will be robust from. So that's why the command line argument correct way during, if we have to take the at a runtime we have to take the value. This is a way, but this can be used only for small arguments. But for large arguments, this is not the correct way, because large argument, in that case we have to use such a large args0, like if we have to pass 100, if we have to pass the 100 values, then that means from 0 to 99 arguments we have to write like this. So this is a way, but it can be applicable for the for small values or small arguments it is applicable, but for large arguments it is not applicable. And we have to note down one thing, that any argument we pass in Java should be of the string type. Now this is the disadvantage of the command line argument. To overcome this our problem or the drawbacks, the main conventional format to take the user input is the our system scanner class, using the scanner class concept. Using the scanner class concept is the right form. So scanner class concept is what? Scanner class concept, it takes the input from the user in Java. And how this can be done? We have to import sorry, for scanner class.
Sir,
Bolo.
if you want to take 100 argument, then what we have to do?
Then you have to write like this. Then you have to, let's say you have to take the 100 argument, then you have to write like this: args0 args1 plus args2 plus args3 plus args4 plus args5 plus args6 plus args7 plus args8, like this you have to write. Now this is not the
It is very lengthy, sir. So any other way?
That's why I have already mentioned that this will be this is the drawback, and that's why we use the scanner class concept. It is basically correct for the small, it is basically correct for some small arguments. The argument is small, then it works, okay, there is no problem. But if our arguments get large, then it will be problem. So that's why this is a drawback of the command line argument. So conventionally, we didn't use this command line argument, and to remove that, the scanner class concept came. Okay, I have already mentioned that in the class, that this is the problem or the drawback. That's why the scanner class concept came. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is the drawbacks, and that's why the scanner class concept came. So scanner class concept is what? We have a class, and this class name is scanner. The class present in our Java, its name is scanner. And this scanner class is present in java.util package. Now, this scanner class, inside this scanner class, some inbuilt methods are present. Some inbuilt methods are present to take the input. Some inbuilt methods are present that will take that these methods will be what? It will take the input. Now, if we have to use the features of this scanner class, then we all know that if we have to use the features of the any class, any predefined class, that means that class should be imported in our program. That class should be imported in our program. Then only we can use that scanner. Any class methods we want to use, means that class should have to be imported, and we have to create an object of that class inside in our program. Then only we can able to use that classes method. So that means we have to, if we want to use the scanner class concept, that means we in the package we have to import that scanner class first. So, and this scanner class is present in java.util package. That means this package should be imported. That first, in this, if we have to use, we have to write import java.util.scanner. Like this, the scanner class will be imported. Now, after the scanner class importing, if we want to use any inbuilt function that is present in the scanner class, we have to create the object of the scanner class, and through this object we will able to call that particular inbuilt method that is present inside the scanner class. So this is the steps that first we have to import java.util.scanner class. This is the package. So the package in which the scanner class is present, we have to import that package. Then after importing the package, we have to create the object. We have to create the object inside our class of that scanner class, because this to use the inbuilt method of the scanner class, we have to create the object, and through this object we will call the inbuilt method of the scanner class to take the input. Okay, so this is the steps. This is the steps to take the user input. Now today I will in the next class, because time is less, so that's why I will not able to go through it. In the next class I will show you that how the scanner class, we have used the scanner class and how the user input can be taken. Okay, and also in the Tuesday there is a lab, so if possible then I will show you that how the scanner class concept and how to take the user input, and this exceptions is generating, that how this exception is generating, we will show you. I will show you that. Okay, so up to this it is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then if you have anyone has any questions, you may ask that anything of today's about this today's topic, that anyone has any question, then you may ask. So I think it is clear to everyone. So then today's I will stop this sessions will be stopped, and so in the next class we will see this implementation of this scanner class concept and the exceptions. Till now the exceptions which we have seen, its format or the its representations, that how this will be done in programming, we will see that. So I will everyone should be present. I will take your screenshots of attendance. So thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir.